Hi, I'm Glyn Dewis and welcome to episode 10 of my video podcast. Okay, so about a week ago I was sent this picture by somebody who watches this podcast asking me if I could take a look to see if there's any way that I could put in, or show them actually how I could put in a new sky in this scene. Now they'd tried it themselves and encountered all kinds of problems, and they were getting this kind of issue here, and this is what they sent me to highlight them, the kind of problems they were getting, where there's all this kind of funkiness going on in the leaves and the branches and the trees on the left hand side there. Now the reason for that is this picture is perfect for the foreground where we can see all the detail in the grass and the trees, but obviously the sky's been blown out, and because of the time of year the tree on the left hand side here hasn't got quite so many leaves on it. So because of the high exposure in the shot and the sky being blown out, all these very small branches and small leaves have kind of been blown out, so you can hardly see them, or the ones that you can see, just they're kind of like little bits floating in the air. So that's clearly going to be a problem. But there is a workaround for that. Now, before we actually go and show you how I would tend to do this, you've just got to bear in mind really when you're doing selections, you're not always going to get the perfect selection. So if you're looking for it, don't waste your time looking for the perfect one. There's a saying that photographer and digital retoucher Joel Grimes uses, and that is sell the fake. If you can basically show a picture to somebody who has nothing to do with photography or digital retouching, and they look at it and they don't notice that you've actually done something, then you've sold the fake. You're the person doing the retouching. You know what you've done and your eyes are going to be drawn to it, but theirs aren't. So if they don't notice it, absolutely no problem. So don't sweat about it too much. But I'm going to show you a way how I would work around trying to put in a sky into this scene here. Now, before I've actually recorded this, I have had quite a bit of a play, seeing what I found worked best for me. Of course, Photoshop being Photoshop, there's countless ways that you can make selections. You could use quick selection tool, which wouldn't really work all that well in here. You might first of all think about diving over to channels and choosing one of these here, and that kind of worked well, but I did have issues with that as well. In fact, one of the areas that I found worked best for me was actually using color range. So here's how I did it. First of all, then I'll go to select and color range. Now the normal way that I would use color range, where it says select and you've got the drop down menu, I'd normally have that set to sample colors. And I like to actually have just at the bottom here where it says selection preview, I like to have that set to quick mask, because this red overlay it gives me is a real good indication where I can see on the big picture of exactly what it is I'm selecting. So that's generally how I would use it. But using it that way didn't work all that good for me either. What I've actually done was in the drop down menu here where it says select, what I decided to do was actually get Photoshop to select the mid-tone areas for me. Because the only area that I'm really concerned about are the leaves and the branches. They're going to be the tricky parts. All this bit down the bottom and this big mass area on the right hand side, absolutely no problems with that whatsoever. You can do that really easily. But it's all these tricky areas, the leaves and the branches. So what I thought I'd do is I'd get first of all color range just to select the mid-tones, and I'm going to click OK. Now when I click OK, obviously we're going to get all the marching ants, which is all those areas of mid-tones within the picture that the color range has found for me. So I'm not going to worry about bits that I don't want for now. What I'm going to do is just save that. So select, save selection, and I'm going to call that mid-tones, obviously because it was the mid-tones and it helps to keep things nice and easy to recognize. So we'll click OK. So now I'll select and deselect. The next thing I want to do is select the shadows. So we'll go back to color range, select, and from the drop down menu here, rather than mid-tones, I'm going to choose shadows. And again, you'll find that it's starting to pick up different areas of the branches and the leaves. So I shall just click OK. I get the marching ants. I'll go select and save selection, and I'm going to call that shadows. Now this is something I do all the time whenever I make a selection. However I do it, I always save it. And that's maybe a bit of advice I'd give you at this point, because you can sometimes spend a lot of time making selections, and the last thing you want to do is to lose it. So always save your selections just using that select, save selection command at the bottom there. Okay, so once you've actually made your selections, you'll find them over in the channels over here on the right hand side of your screen. And you can see if I click on them at the bottom, here's what's been selected as midtones. So anywhere that's white is what's been selected. Here's the midtones and here's the shadows. So you can see certainly at the top area here, all these real small leaves have been selected and the shadows area. So there's parts that we need to basically fill in now. So now we've got both the shadows and the midtones areas selected. What I'm going to do is actually combine these two masks together, these two channels together rather. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to look along the top line of the trees. Now one of them is actually going to be higher than the other. You'll see if I just turn them on and off, you can see the midtones, certainly in this area here. That's the shadows, that's the midtones. That one goes higher than the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in all the areas below there, which are the shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my Command or Control key and I'm going to click on the thumbnail of the shadows. So that's going to load that channel as a selection. So basically all I want to do now then is fill all that area there in white. So I'm going to go to Edit, Fill and choose white from the drop down menu and click OK. And then deselect it. So now basically what you're seeing here is a combination of these two channels, the midtones and the shadows. So what I shall do then, just to keep things nice and tidy, because I'm quite happy with how that's gone so far, I'm actually going to drag the shadows into the trash. Don't need that one anymore. And I'm going to just double click on the name here and rename it, and we'll call that one Selection. Okay, so it just makes it easier for later on. Now you'll see there's certain areas in the white that aren't quite white, so I need to paint those over. So it's dead easy. I'm going to get a brush, make sure that the brush is in normal blend mode, and I'm just going to use my right bracket key to make a nice big brush, and we'll put a few strokes over here to make sure that all those areas are white. Now, anywhere that you can see that's got a black area here in the middle, obviously that means that's the sky. That's looking through the tree. So I'm not going to paint over that, but I'm going to come right up here, right to the edges, but not quite to the top. And I want to show you a little trick here so that you can actually get right to the top here to make sure that everywhere gets painted over. Now this area here, just coming down here as well, something like that's good. And we can come over to this area here. Again, I'm not going right to the edges because I want to show you just a little trick. So that's about right by now. Okay, so for me to get right to the edges, all I'm going to do is, using the same brush, I'm going to change the blend mode of this brush to overlay. And what that's going to allow me to do is actually be quite slapdash with my painting, because now I can brush and I'm going right over the edges. If I show you up here now, see where we've got this white bit, not quite so white bit, and the black bit. Because I've got the brush in overlay mode, I can paint in white and it only paints over the white areas. It doesn't affect the black areas. So that allows me to do this really, really quickly. Without that blend mode, that could be quite challenging to paint all that in there. So we'll just come around here. Like so, just to fill in these areas that should be pure white, something like that. Actually, there's a little bit on this tree here that could do with going a bit whiter, so I'm going to decrease the size of my brush and paint over. So again, it's only affecting the areas that should be white. Anywhere that's pure black, it's generally leaving it alone, which is pretty good. So come to around about there. That's looking good. And we'll zoom out. In fact, just to check it. Anywhere else that we need to do? Oh, actually here. There's a little bit here. Can you see where this black area does actually have some white on it? Just here. We want that. So I want that to be black. Well, all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the blend mode of the brush in overlay. I'm going to press X on my keyboard so that now instead of painting in white, I'm painting in black. And I'll come in and I'll do that. So now I can paint in black and it doesn't affect any of the white. So I can come in nice and close without having to be too careful, and it'll cover that over for me. So that's great. Okay, so now one thing to bear in mind is with this actual layer mask here, or this channel here, anywhere that's white is what's been selected, but it's actually the sky we want selected, and at the moment that's black. So basically we want the opposite of this. Wherever is white, we want to be black, and wherever is black, we want to be white. So to do that, all I'm going to do is hold down my Command or Control key and press I to invert it. So whatever was white becomes black and vice versa. So now the white area is the sky, and that's what we want to be selected. So now we've done that, I'm going to click on RGB so we can see our full colour picture again and go back to my layers. Okay, so we'll take just a few moments away from the retouching to give our eyes a break and use that time just to let you know about a few things that I've got coming up. The first one is my first ever 2-day Dynamic Duo knockout workshop, which I'm holding up in Halifax in the north part of the UK. Now this is on the weekend of Saturday the 21st and Sunday the 22nd of September. And like I said, it's a 2-day workshop where the first day is all about the photography. We'll be on location in the Halifax boxing gym working with physique athletes, boxers and models to produce the kind of pictures that you can see on screen now. So these are the kind of shots we're going to be working through. I'm going to tell you all about how I work on location. We're going to be working through the lighting and how to work with the models to produce these kinds of pictures. So it's very much a hands-on workshop for everybody who's there. Day 2 is when we're doing the retouching, and that's when we're going to be in a different location going through every single retouching step to produce the final prints ready to go away with. So that's a 2-day workshop. It's £249 for both days, and that includes a light lunch and refreshments and even transport to and from the hotel. So I hope you can come and join me. It's going to be a great 2 days with plenty of social on the Saturday night as well. Now the next thing I want to let you know about is coming up on Saturday, October the 5th this year, and this is the 6th annual Scott Kelby Worldwide Photo Walk, an absolutely record-breaking event where every single year thousands of photographers get together in a location all around the world and just spend a couple of hours taking photos together of anything and everything. It's a big social event and it's been a huge success. Now I'm running a walk this year in Oxford in the UK, and there's usually 50 spaces available for every single walk, and at the moment while I'm recording this I'll just see now there's only 2 spaces left for the walk that I'm actually leading. So if you want to come and join me and loads of great folks in Oxford, make sure you head on over to the worldwidephotowalk.com website, look up Oxford even, and come and join us if the spaces are still available. But then saying that, wherever you are in the world, go to the website anyway. Check out to see if there's a walk going on in your area and definitely join it. You'll absolutely love it. It's an absolutely superb day. But if there's not one going on in your area, make sure you click on where it says leader walk, and why not organise one yourself? It's a very rewarding, great day, and you'll make some superb friends. You really will. Great day. So that's worldwidephotowalk.com. Now the last thing I want to let you know about is Flickr. Now I know I'm a little bit late to the party here, but a short while ago Flickr completely revamped their website, and I'm really liking the way they've done the sort of way that you can look at your pictures now. So I've only just started updating my portfolio on Flickr. So this is just a call out really to any of you folks that are on Flickr. If you haven't already, come and join me over there. Look me up. You'll find me under Glyn Dewis Photography. There's actually 2 Glyn Dewis you'll find on there. They're both me, but the one that's Glyn Dewis Photography is the one that I'm using. So add me into your group or whatever you want to do. So let's kind of like hook up and hang out on Flickr as well. Right, let's get back to the retouching. Right, so now I need to choose a sky that I can put into this area. Now if I jump over to my Lightroom, let's just close that down there. And here's a sky that I've got. Might actually just add that little bit more exposure on it here. This is a sky that I've taken, and I think I mentioned this on another video before, that whenever I'm out and about I always take pictures of clouds. People think you're crazy pointing your camera to the sky, but hey, this is free stock images that you can make use of later on in pictures like what we're doing now. So it's a really handy thing to do, doesn't cost you a penny. So I want to maybe make the sky just a little bit blue, and what I've actually done is added a gradient onto the sky here, and you can see that just here. So I'm just going to make that just a little bit bluer around about then. If I just show you how I did that actually, let's just get rid of that gradient. Here's the sky as it is. I'm going to get the gradient tool over here on the right hand side, click, hold my shift key and drag straight down so it comes down in a straight line like so. And then I can just use the temperature slider to add in just a little bit more so it makes it look like a nice blue sky, something like that. Click done, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of clarity. In fact, we've got 100% clarity already. So what I shall do is now take this picture over into Photoshop so we can now add it into our one that we've been working on so far. So I'm going to go to Photo, Edit in, and I've always mentioned this before, working smart and non-destructive, and also to be able to give us a little bit of flexibility if we need it later on to do some more changes. We're going to send this into Photoshop as a smart object. So open a smart object in Photoshop, click on that, and eventually that's going to take us over into Photoshop. Now this is a D800 file, And this computer's pretty maxed out on the RAM, but it still pulls on it just a little bit, needs a bit of help. So now we're in Photoshop. We can see that this is a smart object just from the icon down the bottom in the right hand side of the thumbnail. But all I'm going to do is just get my move tool, click and drag it over into the sky that I've been working on just here. So we'll bring it over to there, hold down my shift key so it puts it dead center, and then let go. It's just preparing the smart object, as you see, and eventually there it is. There's our sky. Now, what I want to do is just reposition it so that the horizon line is in kind of keeping with the picture I've been working on so far. Because if I turn it off, the horizon line is about sort of midway across our picture here. So I'm going to lower the opacity so I can see what I'm doing. Get my move tool, hold down my shift key, click and drag upwards. And when I do that, it drags it up in a straight line like that. So I'll just make sure that it's just below the tree line of our original picture that we've been working on, just about there. Bring up the opacity to 100%. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in that selection I made of the sky. So we're going to go to Select, Load Selection, and then the channels here, because remember it was in the channels panel over the right hand side. Well, it's in the channel drop down menu now. So we go Channel, and there it is, the one that we called Selection. I'll click OK, and now you can see the marching ants of the actual sky area that we selected. So to knock out the rest of the bottom of the picture that we don't want in there, all I'm going to do is just click a layer mask. So now we can see we've added in that sky. But straight away you start to see some problems. Over on the right hand side it looks fantastic. We can see the sky going through this area down here. If I just sort of highlight this area here, you can see that the sky has changed in there as well. It looks brilliant on the leaves and the trees on the right hand side, and certainly that bit over in the distance there. But the troublesome area, as we knew right from the start, was going to be this area here. If I just turn that on and off, you can see that, yes, we're missing some leaves and branches, but we always knew that was going to happen because they weren't actually connected to the tree anyway because of the exposure. But there are a few issues, and we've got like a little bit of a glow going around it. So we can get rid of that, maybe by using something called layer stars. Now there's a video on my YouTube channel where I've shown how I can select hair and use layer stars to help out with that selection. Well, we could maybe also try that here. So what I'm going to do is, let's just rename this layer here to call it Sky. I'm going to double click to the right hand side of where it says Sky to bring up the Layer Stars dialog box, and the one that I found worked really well here was Inner Glow. Now at the moment, by default, when you click on that, you've got this kind of like a yellowish colour and the blend mode set to screen. But I think what we need to do here is change the blend mode to multiply to darken it down a bit. And at the moment we can see that it's still got that yellowish tint. So what I'm going to do is add a bluish tint. So we're going to click on this little icon just to the left hand side here. So we can choose our own colour. And I'm going to choose a colour of the sky. Click right in the sky just there. And click OK. So now look, if you look over in this area just over here, look at the difference in the sky now. Turn that layer star on and off, on and off. So it makes a huge difference to the sky, to that tree there. So it's on, sorry, there is off and on, off and on. So you can see that that layer style there is making a big difference. Okay, so now that's looking good. What we'll do is we'll just close that down, make sure we're at full view by double clicking on the hand tool there. Now, one thing we can do to kind of like, again, sell that fake and to help us out really is maybe flipping the sky to the other side. So all these clouds, this brighter area, if they were on the other side, that might actually help us out here because we do have a little bit of a glow going on still around these leaves and branches, although it's not too much. So what we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to just go to my edit and transform and flip horizontal. But what you'll see when I do that is when I try to flip the sky, the mask also comes with it. So I need to do it without that. So let's just go back, and to make sure that I can flip the sky but keep the mask in exactly the same place, so the sky, so all the leaves and that are still there, is just over on the right hand side here where we've got this little chain icon. If I click on that to remove it, it means that the sky and the mask can now be altered independently of each other. So what I'm going to do now then is do the same thing. Go Edit, Transform, flip horizontal. So now you can see that the mask has stayed the same. All these leaves and branches are being sort of showing through fine with the sky behind it. But now it allows me to move this cloud around a little bit. So I'm going to maybe just reposition it so that they do go behind the branches just a little bit. And again, it's all about selling that fake. And I think that looks pretty good. Something like that will be fine. Let's just put that back into the center there, and away we go. Now, one thing you'll notice when we apply a layer style, that has been applied to the whole picture. So although it's having a great effect over on the left hand side for us, on the right hand side we don't really need it. So we want to remove it off that area. Now, to do that, what we're going to do is put our cursor over where it says Inner Glow and right click to bring up a drop down menu. And right at the bottom we get one called Create Layer. So if I click on that, what Photoshop's going to do is take that layer style and turn it into a layer, so we can turn that on and off. And the great thing about that is now we can treat it as a layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put a black layer mask now to hide the effect. So no longer can we see that inner glow, which gave us a good result on this tree here. We can't see it anywhere, in fact. But just so I can see it where I want it to be, now I'm going to get a brush, a white brush, making sure that I now turn blend mode of this brush to normal, and then I can just paint at 100% opacity over the trees over in the left hand side here to bring back that layer style just in that area, because I don't want it everywhere else. I just want it in that one particular area there. So I've now turned it on and off. If we zoom in just a little bit more, you can see that that effect has been applied, but only to the trees on the left. Now, one extra little thing I could do, and again, we're only looking to sell the fake here, I might want to darken down the leaves and branches on that tree just to add in a little bit more detail. And one way that I could do that is I could click back on my background layer and press Command or Control J to create a duplicate of it. Now, if I change the blend mode of this duplicate to multiply, the whole picture is going to get darker. And obviously I don't want that. So what I'm going to do again now is add a black layer mask to it, so that effect is hidden. I'm going to get a brush, and again I'm using a white brush, and I'm going to paint over the tree. And obviously at the moment that looks way too much, like so. But then because it's on its own layer, I can lower the opacity now just to bring it quite a long way down. We're probably going to go for around about maybe 20% would be enough. If I turn that on and off, you can see that even more leaves now starting to be picked up. And again, we're just selling that fake. That's just allowing us to bring in a little bit more detail into that tree on the left-hand side. So there you go, just one workaround that you can use for adding in a sky into a scene where you've got trees which have those little leaves and branches, usually quite tricky. And again, like I said at the start, Photoshop being Photoshop, there's so many ways that you can do it. This is just one way that I found by having a bit of a play that worked quite well. Okay, so thanks for tuning into this particular episode. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, drop me a line to Glyn at glyndewis.com. And if there's any tips, tricks or techniques that you'd like to see in future episodes, again, just drop me a line and I'll see what I can do. Now, this episode, I did things just a little bit differently. I worked on a picture that had been sent in by somebody who already subscribed to this channel. Now, maybe there's a picture that you're having some problems with. Maybe there's some questions you've got, or maybe something you're trying to do just doesn't seem to work. That could be something we could include on this particular show in a future episode. So if you're happy for me to do that and you'd like me to do it, drop me a line and in the subject field put Photoshop Help, just like you can see on the screen now. And that could be something I could work on and include in a future episode of this video show. But if you do send me something, make sure you let me know that you're happy for your name to be mentioned. And if you've got a website you'd like me to promote, then by all means put that in there as well. Now, talking to subscribers, if you haven't already, make sure you click on the subscribe button on screen now, which is about down here. Click on the subscribe button, and from then on you'll miss no episodes or anything else that I put out on my video channel. And if you could spread the word to let anybody else you know that might want to see the content that I'm putting out, by all means let them know about it so they can subscribe and get the benefit of all this kind of stuff that's free as well. Right, I think that's probably all for this week. We've got episode 11 next time. We've got to try and work out how I'm going to work on doing that with my hands. But hey, I've got a week to think about it. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.